Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center. I'll bet you're pretty excited today, right?
I am excited
Yeah,
today
because I gave him the power this morning to turn it
punch
on.
us into Facebook.
So we are here coming to you because he turned it on. So welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Woodstock. We're so grateful that you are here and sharing this time with us. I'm Marypatriece Raupp. I am the spiritual leader here.
And I'm Reverend Tom. It's just a joy to be here with you and support your spiritual leader on her journey.
Yes, it's a great morning. The sun is shining. How amazing can it be? We get to determine that, don't we?
We do.
We do. But we're going to talk this morning a little bit more and see what other ways we can find to move through these days. But first, let's start with a prayer. Okay?
Certainly.
Let's take a deep breath. We're moving into our heart space, and we just call in sweet spirit, divine life source. Fill our beings, our ideas, our thoughts, our hearts with the good that you bring, with the life that you encourage and support, with the peace that's all about the beingness of this moment. Thank you for this time together with each other. Thank you for the media that allows us to share it. And thank you for the ideas and the ways that we move from this time together that influence and open the day to new beginnings, new ideas, new possibilities. We are at Possibility Junction.
Amen, sister.
We are so grateful for all of these things. We're grateful for the opportunity at life and to claim it in the way that means the most to us, and to use the strategies that create what it is in our intention to be. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here with me.
I'm glad to be here with you.
You're my partner in crime.
I'm the power that turned us on today.
You are. Look out. The rest of the day can only go up from here. We are a ministry that believes in being more spiritual than religious. And what do you think that means to you?
Well, to me, it gives the individual the opportunity to explore belief systems that may be even a little contrary to ours or contrary to ours. Because if the only hard and fast rule about spirituality is that there are no hard and fast rules regarding spirituality. So, in fact, I recall that there are many unity ministers who have a deep belief in astrology. You know, they'll say, well, because I'm a Libra or a Scorpio or whatever, I have certain tendencies. And to me, it's like, no, this presence of God is within you, and you get to express that however you want, and it's directed by means of your thinking, not your birth date. And in their mind, well, the presence of God in me is part of that, part of my birth date. So a differing views, and neither of us need to be right.
That's true.
On the spiritual path, if that's your idea of how God works through you, God bless. If it works for you, keep working it. So that's what it means to me. How about you?
I agree. I also believe that one of the things that spirituality really supports is the idea of going within to find that path within yourself, and that being okay that it's different. Being okay. One of the things that we really promote is you're not required to follow any one belief system. You can have a plethora of tools in your toolbox of life that help you maneuver it in the way that means most to you and is unique to you. And your life reflects the good and the unfolding that only you can do. So I feel like spirituality gives me the freedom to express who I am, the positive parts, the positive gifts that I can bring in a way that only I can do it. And I'm supported in that.
free of any doctrine or
Agreed.
someone else's
No,
belief systems.
yes.
Yeah, cool.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Excellent.
So welcome again. I'm so grateful. And of course, today, this is our second Sunday broadcasting from the sanctuary. We're excited to be here again. And the great thing is I feel so like, because we're here, I feel like things are sort of like settling back into the spaces that we love so much. And later on, we'll have some announcements about some of our groups that are actually kind of settling back into a routine of meeting with one another. So hang in for that so you can find out all the people that are getting together that maybe you want to join.
Absolutely. Good idea.
Very good?
Yep.
Okay. So if you find that our talk is meaningful to you, if you find that it touches your heart and that it speaks to you, please consider making a donation to help this facility to continue to help breathe life into it, to give it the presence and the power to be a part of lives, your own and those that you love, even enjoy, and people that you can also bring here and help them to find the path that they're meant to walk. So if you can do that, we would be so grateful. Just go to our website, unitywoodstock.org, and go to the Joy of Giving tab, and you'll find it there.
Yeah, and I'm sure we want to thank those who have continued to do that. We receive weekly tithes through so many of you, and thank you for that.
Yes.
We really appreciate it, and keeps us going. Yeah, we still have our financial obligations as a ministry to meet, and thank you for helping us to meet them.
Yeah.
Shall we join in affirming the 5 unity principles?
We should do that. Let's do
Okay.
that. Okay,
Ready?
go.
There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotence. The Christ Spirit lives within me. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. I experience God's presence and power through prayer and meditation. I put my faith into action by demonstration.
Very good. I'm glad you're here. So our talk title today is, Are You a Victim of COVID-19? It's a really important idea. And of course, we encourage you, if you are experiencing physical symptoms of that virus, to please seek out medical attention. We truly encourage you to do that. Today, what we want to focus on is the possible emotional virus that might be happening for you and how it might be affecting you. And what do we do about that? So I'm going to ask you, just like the major symptoms of a COVID-19 physically, does the exposure you receive that you induce emotional symptoms like coughing or choking on the restrictions that you're feeling in your daily life, how it's affecting what you can do and what you can't do? Is it holding you back? Is it making you choke on feeling the freedom to be able to do what you want to do? Do you find yourself feeling a shortness of breath and being inundated with the overwhelming expressions of those around you? Perhaps you may feel your words are being cut short because they want to jump in and share their perspective in front of you. Maybe you can't get a full sentence out in a conversation or a text or an email because they're just so ready to share theirs. Does your emotional temperature rise due to the inflammatory statements that others present? Are you experiencing this? Are you becoming infected with an emotional COVID-19?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a difference between being infected with the virus, which then would present itself by means of the symptoms you alluded to, or being affected by it, which is what's going on all around us. If I'm infected by the virus, then I'm allowing my sense of loss of freedom maybe, or like you say, what what others are saying to change me. And people are so passionate about their perspectives. And almost, it seems like there's opposing perspectives here, two of them, you know, and folks are passionate about them. You know, it's depending on your perspective, you may need to say, you may need to believe that, you know, we need to hunker down, we need to shelter in place, maybe throughout the summer, because there's lives at stake here, and we have to protect people's health. And then just as passionately, there are those who are saying, yes, yes, and our economy is dying, our jobs are dying, my business is dying, I don't know if my family's going to end up homeless. So there's fear on both sides, and some are saying, well, it's not that bad as compared to other flus and whatnot. And then for those of us who are affected, infected with the virus, or by the virus, excuse me, then we want to present our experts' opinions, maybe on Facebook or just in our conversations, and statistics maybe. And the idea is to prove ourselves right and to prove the other side's wrong.
Yeah.
And then add to that, the political element comes into it. And so we have the Republicans hammering Pritzker and the Democratic perspective, so to speak, and the Democrats are hammering our president, Donald Trump, and his perspective and what he says about it. And I just see us, that's so unfortunate, I see us going down the rabbit hole of focusing on the problems instead of finding common solutions through communication.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a little story about that, and it's a true story.
Yeah.
Yesterday had an exchange of texts between several family members. Exactly the example what you're talking about. It started out with someone frustrated, one of my siblings frustrated with the restrictions that were being placed on him and expressing that very passionately, and another one coming in and saying yes, and this is who's responsible for it, and we should do something about it. And it just got really heated. And then another sibling came in and said, but this is what we need to do. This is, how do you determine who should be protected and who shouldn't? Reopening means that there are people that are going to be affected by this or infected because of the actions of others. What's the right? And it became an argument of who can find the most research, who can come up with their own, well, I have a degree in the medical field, and this is how things work with a virus, and I have a degree in the actuary field, and this is what it looks like, all the P scales and all of those things, the standard deviations, and it really unraveled. It unraveled, and it was hard to watch, and it was hard to listen to, because it's exactly what I'm seeing in the media too and amongst friends. And it was just so heart-wrenching.
Yeah, it was.
Because these people normally are so caring and concerned about each other's well-being, and they want to help each other with the project that they have to do or the challenge that they're running into, and this became so big. So they became infected. You could see the coughing about the restrictions. You could see the shortness of breath because somebody's got to say something, and then the other, it just coming in, and the fever that developed and expanded throughout. This went on for a good half hour in text. And that's a long time.
It's a good thing they were separated, I think.
It was a good thing. Actually, the last conversation was was a challenge. There was a challenge at the end of the conversation, and it was almost meet me out back. And how do we inoculate ourselves from this kind of infection? How do we do an emotional hygiene that keeps us from getting there?
Absolutely. Yeah. as I was listening to your story, I heard it live. And I'm thinking of Stephen Covey's idea, first seek to understand and then be understood. That wasn't happening.
No.
And like you say, how do we inoculate ourselves emotionally and spiritually from that? And I'm thinking of this week you and I were listening to Tony Robbins. And he was saying that each of us has a blueprint for our lives that is a design and a perspective and a vision of how our lives ought to be working so that we experience the gifts that life have to offer, and so that our lives unfold the way we think they need to unfold in order to experience what we think life offers. Mm-hmm. And I agree with that. I think everyone has that blueprint. And I believe what we need to do during this time is look at that blueprint and modify it, at least temporarily. Mm-hmm. You know, what do I need to do during this time of dissension, of disagreement, where either my job or my family's financial health or my own health or someone else's health seem to be threatened? How do I change my blueprint of life so that I get the most out of this while being responsible? And I think we to take a breath because I get excited about this. I think we started that inoculation process last week when we asked people to make 5 commitments as to what you need to do during this time to make your life be all it can be and still be a responsible citizen. Remember those?
Absolutely. And I would say one of the main ones for me was putting little sticky notes around the house, and he's seen them too. They're all over the place, and it says, check your thinking. Mm-hmm. Check your thinking. I was listening to someone this week, and his name is John Earl Schoaf, and in the 60s, he was called the Millionaire Maker, and he has nothing to do with the COVID-19, but what he did say that made so much sense was, we are a unique species. We are a unique species that have the ability to think, to direct our thinking, to create our thinking, to focus our thinking. And with that comes a huge responsibility of what you're going to think. He will tell you, it's not that you can't think, you will not ever stop thinking. It's not going to happen, but you're responsible for what you choose to think about, mm-hmm. and how important it is. And I have found that was one of my really big active commitments this week, is to check my thinking and really take that in and make the shifts and make the corrections that I need to make when it was something is like, oh yeah, I can make a difference right now. I can shift that, and it has made a huge shift in my feelings this week. Huge shift in even just looking around and taking in what's around me. I can do that better now. Mm. How about you?
Yeah, and I think about our unity teachings that remind us that each person is 100% responsible for how we respond to whatever's happening. We don't have the privilege of blaming somebody else for being angry and being scared. It's the way we're reacting, and I don't want to minimize how difficult these circumstances are for some people. I know they're hard. Their very way of life is threatened, or sometimes their life is threatened. So, however, that teaching is true regardless of the gravity of the circumstances we're experiencing. And if I can remember that I'm responsible for my thinking, then I can stay with that blueprint that gives me my choices. And it was sad to hear. I heard one of your siblings say near the end of their conversation, he said, "This is how politics destroys families." Mm-hmm. And I would say to him, no, politics doesn't have the power to destroy families. Families destroy families by means of their thinking and their need to be right and their unwillingness to look at for possible solutions instead of just focusing on the problem and that the other people are wrong.
Or listening.
Or
Just
listening,
taking
yeah.
a step back and saying, yeah, I don't feel the same way. You know, I don't feel the same way. This is how I feel, and be able to take the emotion and the passion out of it, that it has to be a certain way, but to stand back and say, you know, I don't mean to offend you. I'm sorry if my perspective offends you, but this is how I feel. Still owning it, but not pushing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, Les Brown, the world-renowned motivator, has a way, even before this, he had a way of dealing with his thinking. And what he would do is, because his focus was so much on building his life and building his dreams, that he only allowed one hour a day to hear any bad news. He gave his staff 1 hour a day between 10 and 11. You can tell me all the bad news you want, but don't tell me right after I get up in the morning. Don't tell me while I'm eating lunch. And I don't want to hear it before I go to bed at night.
Wow.
I'll take 1 hour a day, I'll deal with it then, and then I'm going to go back to my routine for creating healthy emotional status in my life and what I want to do.
Yeah. And I think all this, to me, reminds me of our teachings of the law of attraction, that what we focus on, what we give our attention to, is going to expand in our life. And one of the mistakes that people make regarding the law of attraction is, if I think of something, then someday it's going to happen. Well, it starts happening as soon as you're thinking about it. So if all I'm thinking about is the fear in me or the need to be right, then that's all I see. And we had a great phone call this week from my sister, and it started out with, we have some really good news to share. And what's going on? And that is her husband, who has been laid off from work for, she say 6 weeks, 4 weeks, or something like that, too long, is going back to work on Monday. Now, he works in a factory that builds yachts. I mean, 40 and 60-foot boats. And so it's a manufacturing plant where you had assembly lines and people work together. And what they said was, they've got plastic shields up, and they have marks on the floors to keep the social distancing, 6-foot social distancing. And my thought was, wow, somebody there was able to stop focusing on the problem and look for solutions. And that's what happens with the law of attraction. Whatever you think about comes to you in greater quantities. So God bless him. I was so glad to hear that. And he's going back to work, and all the people in the plant are going back to work, because instead of focusing on what was wrong, they kind of inoculated themselves and said, we're going to focus on what we can do here.
And I think that is going to be our road forward, is to think outside of the box, to think of new ways to make it work, so that both concerns are equally understood, equally honored, and we can still move forward together, not in two separate camps.
Yeah, and so change our blueprint for expectations. It's a temporary change, you know? It's a temporary change. It isn't permanent. And also, if I find myself emotionally, my temperature going up, or emotional shortness of breath because I need to get my point of view across, I need to inoculate myself by taking a breath, thinking of our 5 principles, and doing what I need to do to be a responsible citizen.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like your ideas.
Thank you.
You've got good ones.
Thank you.
Well, we're so grateful that you could join us this morning, and we want to let you know that even for us, you know, there are groups that have met here before that are finding ways to move forward. So we want to share with you, our women's group now is online. You can check it out on our website. The AA group is beginning to meet, is meeting online as well. The Al-Anon group is coming back together. And of course, our Quest group is on Wednesday nights at at 7. You're welcome to join in, and we're excited. It's not what we would have pictured, but it's a new picture. We're adjusting our picture of what to do, right?
We adjusted our blueprint, and the Christ Mind Study Group is also meeting virtually, right?
Yes, they will be meeting next Saturday.
Okay.
So if you're interested in any one of those things, go ahead and check out our website. You'll find the information there. And before we close here, I want to invite you to our Zoom session after this. We will be continuing a conversation about how can you inoculate yourself, or how can you practice emotional hygiene from what's happening around you? So we're grateful that you came. We're excited that we get to be here and continue doing what we love to do. And I think we're about ready to close with a prayer.
I think so, and the Zoom conversation will take just a minute to come up online, and you're free to talk about what you agree about or don't agree about with what you heard, your perspective. So we're looking forward to seeing you all on Zoom in just a few moments.
So shall we finish?
Please do.
Let's see here. Where are we at? You're here.
I think I know the prayer for
There you
protection,
go.
but for some reason it's better if I have it in front of
There
me.
we go. I know, me too.
Here we go. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
Have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday.
May I sign us off?
I'm going to give you the power to do so.
I'm looking forward to this. Have a
Take
good
care.